All right, here we are on April 12th, really late. No, getting close to midnight my time, Central Time. So, hey, this one, every time I think I'm going to get a little bit of rest from Cueanon, he always fires up a bunch of juicy posts and got 8 or 9 more of them today on the 12th. But this one's about welcome aboard, talking about Alan. And so, Dershowitz, we're going to have to get his pronunciation of his name correctly, but pretty exciting things. April 12th, Cueanon here. We're going to dig into some of these things and probably go over another Mark Taylor prophecy as well, going over a bunch of quick news. So let's dig into it. If you look at this right now, go back to Cueanon, all the way back looking to April 10th, we reviewed the clean house. How cool was that for him to get another confirmation that he knows what's going on? Because on the 11th, Ryan shows that he's resigning, right? So obviously this Q is an insider. He knows what's going on, and resigns the wrong word. He's not going to rerun like many other politicians. I think we're over 60 or 70 of them now that in the House and the Senate that are not going to run in November or the next time their term comes up. So that's cleaning house is what it is. It's cleaning house. So we got over this trusted plan, etc. So there's one I wanted to revisit a little bit. I'm going back to the 10th. This one right here. So if you remember this one, it was posted where at 11:30, where an Anon put these two pictures here and said, check the dates. Pentagon kills lifelong project same day Facebook is formed. Q says, finder of this should apply to NSA. Q, basically saying this is a great find. And if you look at this, the same day that Facebook was created, the Pentagon killed this. But what I didn't read, which I think is real important to read, is look at this. The Pentagon canceled its so-called lifelong project, an ambitious effort to build a database tracking a person's entire existence. Run by DARPA, the Defense Department research arm, Lifelong aimed to gather a single place just about everything an individual says, sees, or does. The phone calls made, the TV shows watched, the magazines read, the plane tickets bought, the emails sent and received. Out of the seemingly endless ocean of information, computer scientists would plot distinctive routes in the data, mapping relationships, memories, events, and experiences. So this was way back in 2004. And when they shut that down, Facebook fired up. So obviously that shows you that Facebook was basically created by the government. We know the CIA now, and funded by the CIA to basically take on this spying exercise. So that is just quite crazy when you really dig into that. So now we talked about how after the Zucker testimony and other testimonies of the Silicon Valley, I guess, social media sites, that they're going to actually, that somebody like Snowden is going to drop a bunch of stuff. So it says, you're learning yet? So that's really kind of cool there. And then this is the one. This is the one where, interesting, I didn't catch this because this says, thank you, Alan. Welcome aboard, freedom. And this is talking about Alan, who had the picture of, right? And this guy was, and so when I talked about the 17, I think it's talking about him versus the jerseys. Now, we know that the jersey 17, hey, Kindemonics, is Alan involved in Lolita? Yes. So Alan actually, I'll show you in a second, just where he was actually showing he's had many trips on the plane to Lolita Island. But look at this. This says, thank you, Alan. Welcome aboard, freedom. And you remember when, you know, like the movie The Firm, where Tom Cruise was actually in that film, where they would just find something bad on you and then they would have you. They would bribe you. And we know that's happened to a lot of our politicians and a lot of people in the media that are under control by the deep state based on finding compromising information. And I think that's what's happened with Alan, because in this State of the Union, when he talked about having freedom and everybody started chanting USA, 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 basically saying that those strings are cut, those controlling everybody has been eliminated, right? And so this seems to be, as the more I study different people's opinions on this, is Alan's being freed. And when this is number 17, obviously he got a number 17 jersey. 17 is the 17th letter of the alphabet, assuming it's Q. So that's probably why he got the jersey there. But the number 17 here is probably something different. which I'll show you in a post just in a second. Now, this said funny here, and here you see how it says Washington Post here, where they actually, if you go look at this article, see if I can find this real quick. I think it might be right here. Washington Post, yes, the crisis in journal, and that's helping Trump. It's funny, this gal had her picture here before until she started getting a lot of ugly comments, because basically this is mockingbird media at its best. We've already seen New York Times, other journals already try to make QAnon a conspiracy theory, and they're trying to talk bad about all of us, right? And so this now we can add the Washington Post to the mix, and several other articles. This article goes on and on just slamming how terrible QAnon is and how terrible these conspiracy are. You'll see right here, the Post, it's basically saying if people that read local newspapers would vote for Hillary, and people that didn't read local newspapers voted for Trump, and so therefore we're all idiots, and we believe conspiracy theories and lies, and so that's why we vote for Trump. That's what this basically tries to say. Complete mockingbird media, right? And it even says they could be reading the latest post from a Russian bot, right? So we're reading Russian bots. We don't know what we're doing. We're stupid. We can't think for ourselves. We have to read the newspaper of mockingbird media to be able to vote for the right person. Checking out the latest rant from conspiracy theorist de jure QAnon, or not reading any news at all. So people are either dumb or reading QAnon conspiracy theories or listening to Russian bots if they voted for Trump. So obviously we need to get rid of all this stuff, shut down conservative media, and make you read the narrative from the mockingbird media so you'll know who to vote for the next time. That's what this article says. And that's why we've encouraged everybody to go ahead and reply back to this Helene Olin and let her know how much of a mockingbird media rat she is. So here's some other, Melissa, howdy, Amos, time for Trump to bring this PSYOP right to prime TV. That would be interesting, primetime TV. Trump needs to ask those questions. In addition, every patriot needs to give an assignment, no matter how small. I agree with you, Amos. If we all pull together, yes, he went there. Yep. Blame to Lolita 17. Yeah, and that's where I'm getting into right now. If we talked about the 17 being the 17th letter of the alphabet being Q, and the fact that right here he talked right Alan being free, so I think he's going to be, and Alan has been really positive on Trump, and when he tweeted, Trump tweeted watch Hannity last night. If you watch that, he was on there being interviewed, and Alan actually gave some great positive feedback and was after Mueller and about the Mueller witch hunt, etc. So obviously, Trump is saying that what I just read on the Washington Post Mockingbird media piece, that it's funny just to see all these different pieces trying to make QAnon a conspiracy theory. And I think it's going to just lead more people to come and see us, and the subscribers are going to increase. More and more people are going to come and see what's happening. Then he says Sirius Night 5, right? Obviously the fifth night of operations happening. And if you look here on the next one, he takes that same post on 11:35 and replies back to it, and he says, Facebook, Building 8, China, Q. And this is interesting because there's a whole Facebook article about more leaks coming out every day, damaging, showing how just terrible the Facebook was, right, as far as everything they do. And I think this article, see if I can grab the right one. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But basically, Building 8 is one of where they do a lot of experiments. And here's where they were having hospitals, working with hospitals to do a bunch of experimentation with doctors, etc. Basically giving up our HIPAA rights, potentially. Now, how that links to China, I'm going to have to do some more research if you guys know about what he meant with this, because he's basically replying back to this. But it might be just the Night 5, the operations in Night 5, has to do with China and Building 8. So that I would guess he's talking about the serious night raids they're doing, and some in China, some maybe in California where they're based. Now it talks about gaps between nights 4 and 5. Obviously we had 4 nights in a row, and then all of a sudden we had three-day break or so, and then he says he answers the question, Syria. So obviously the Syria crisis is what's happened. Now I'm not going to talk much about the Syria. My opinion there is that let's not get lost in the trees when we need to look at the forest. Trump's doing great things. Last year, everybody freaked out. It drives me crazy when all the truthers just throw Trump under the bus every time they don't do exactly what he's telling. Almost like Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan can never get elected and can't get anything done because he's such a purist. Trump's not a purist. He's playing a game of chess here, right? So don't judge him for a false flag attack when it's very limited in scope like it was last year. So I think that's what's going to happen here. Everybody's telling them they have massive evidence, but we're not going to get rid of all the false flag evidence until we get rid of the criminals. So don't jump off the Trump train just because he throws some bombs at some airports, right? So anyway, that's my opinion on that. If we look at this next one here, which is 1137, Cueanon can double confirm that 17 was regarding the jerseys when I asked yesterday for confirmation, because this is what I thought. I thought 17 jerseys was a Q, 17th Q with the jerseys, right? Anons are bringing up every other 17 under the sun, right? Kick, and then that's the kind of the underground signature for all these Anons. The frog, the truth frog, right? Now, if you look at this, he answers and doesn't say it's the jerseys 17Q, right? He says, Alan, welcome aboard, plain. So that's new information, right? So you put the two other posts together, plain, doesn't use freedom in this time, 17. So basically, the 17 had more to do with Alan being welcome aboard a plane. So now, if you go back and look at some research, you will see that actual flight log right here shows this is the flight log from the Lolita Express. And you see the 17th passenger here, 17 here, was Alan Dershowitz, right? And here's another one, Alan Dershowitz. So I don't know if these are different flights, two different dates or whatever. He's a 17th passenger twice. So obviously, 17 Alan, he's been accused. He's under lawsuits right now of being part of this whole Lolita Express stuff. And obviously, if we look at this right now, we are seeing Trump actually start to talk to him. So see if I can find it. I think this is it. Trump set to dine with law professor Alan Dershowitz. And I think that happened, I think, a couple of days ago. But the point is that this guy's a brilliant guy that actually, Alan Dershowitz, which is right, Dershowitz. Sorry about that. I'm not the best pronunciation guy. You guys have probably figured that out by now. Welcome aboard here. This is him. He really is defending Trump and attacking Miller right now. And some people like Dick Morris is saying that Trump should hire this guy. So he met with him. So who knows what? But he obviously knows where a lot of the dead bodies are in the Lolita Express island, right? That island with the whole thing with Epstein. So Epstein's supposedly burying tunnels, causing fires on his island, trying to hide evidence. Well, obviously this guy knows where everything is. He's been on the island most likely, right? So that's kind of an exciting, different twist to the whole number 17 that we learned about. So the everything under the sun, there's been a lot of other 17s, by the way. But those are the two, I think. The jersey, number 17, talking about Q, kind of confirming us as well. And then 17 being the what I just showed you with the Lolita Express and Alan being on the plane. Now, if we look at 1138, here's another article on sex trafficking. This is exciting to me. Study carefully. Facebook, IG think Ray Chandler, who was the madam most likely for Epstein, right? As a young girl, probably involved in the pedophilia early on, unfortunately. Twitter, etc. Honeypots. Obviously, honeypots are women who have to actually get women who actually or a prostitute or some sort that gets information out of people so they can be blackmailed later or get information out of spies, right? Honeypot spies, etc. Those are the type of things we're talking about here. If you go read this article and make sure I can find the right one here. Effort to undermine Rosenstein. This is it right here. Trump signs law to punish websites for sex trafficking. Right, and if you look at this, and he said read carefully, so I would look at. I'll link this in the below. Go look at this. This is really interesting. I know that there's a lot of support for this from lawmakers, and I'm going to kind of go. I'm trying to go down to the part that I thought was probably the most interesting. This is a quote here. This is a momentous day in the fight to help some online sex trafficking and to help stop online sex trafficking, and a big victory for trafficking victims and survivors who for too long have been denied the opportunity to get the justice they deserve, said Republican U.S. Senator Rob Portman. So that's all good news, obviously. If you can have sex trafficking victims, and that have been, and if you see these online companies have often been able to be protected, and now they're not. So kind of an exciting thing of Trump still coming down on this pedophilia and the sex trafficking, the whole human trafficking thing. He's putting an end to that and massive action everywhere, right? So that's all great news. And he's saying, study this carefully. Think of Facebook. So now Facebook can get caught for just like the back door or the back site. What was that called that actually got shut down? That had massive number of sex trafficking and the personal pages of Craigslist, and now people like Facebook and Instagram, where there's honeypot information there, right? Or you're trying to sell, or you basically, Facebook can be found accountable for that when they were protected beforehand, and not so can Twitter, etc. All the social media platforms, you better understand what's going on in your platform, right? So that is interesting. So I'm going to try to catch up on some of your discussion here. Snorer's working as a white hat. I hope so. And Hassan, he'll help take down the big boys, right? So when he says no deals being made, I think he's talking about the big guys. I'm talking about the guns, the Illuminati up above, as well as the, and I'm talking about Cabal and which are the Rosensteins, the House of Saud, as well as George Soros, and then the big guns like the Obama and the real corruption in there, and the Hillary Clinton corruption, and I think the McCain, etc. Not right versus left. I always bring that up. Not right versus left. This goes on both sides. It's corruption versus us. So we certainly do. When he talks about we have it all, Cueanon just says, hey, we have it all as far as all information. We certainly do, because they have all the NSA data, and they basically have, as a Q clearance, right, they have pretty much everything, and they've turned it against the deep state now. Now here's a picture, and if you notice there's a misspelling on Trump's Twitter. Try to blow that up a little bit. Where he put an extra E in there, and basically he's telling us that's not a mistake. How come it hasn't been corrected? Coincidence? And so he's talking about meme, and he actually underlined it, right? Meme, and said misspellings matter. So I think that's a message to us. Let's get creative. Let's make memes of all these foolish criminals, right? Such as Comey coming out and lying about everything, right? And the leaking going on, and these Mockingbird media people. So let's come up with great memes, I think, is what's going on there. So the penalty for treason is death. I sure hope so. Pata said focus was needed on Syria. Just went offline. Australia. Oh, that was Kingdonomics. Yeah. Some good discussion going on the board here. I'm not going to be able to keep up with it all, obviously. Now there's another article here with Robert, with our problems, which is obviously Rosenstein. And if you look at this, there's a bunch of articles that talk about it here. I think it's right here. White House is prepping an effort to undermine Rosenstein. And if you look at that, it's a total, of course, it's CNN, so it's a Mockingbird media piece trying to protect Rosenstein because he's in trouble because everything's being leaked. He's almost getting impeached because he's obstructing justice, and the 1.2 million pieces of information that was given to the IG that he won't give to Congress. He's only given like 3,000 pages, and they finally just got the electronic version, Nunes did, of how the FISA warrant process started, which is supposed to be pretty damning. According to Dan Bongino and his theory and everything he's being told, it looks like that's going to show that the British government was heavily involved in this from the beginning. So that they basically, since they couldn't spy on their own citizens legally, they can do it through Britain. So they put this whole plan to try to basically spy on Trump, the Obama administration spying on Trump to help Hillary win. Britain was completely involved in that from the very beginning. And I think that's going to be the big bombshell that comes out from that new information that was just released. So if you look at this, now there's this to my fellow incarnated, what is that? Incarnated extraterrestrial. So I think he's just kind of talking about the Anons there. How could I have forgotten this crumb? And then Q basically publishes it, right? Points to it, which means he agrees with what this says. So if we blow that up and basically just says, this is a drop from before, understand that one simple fact: the U.S. is connected to the rest of the world. Knowing that, understand by default, if certain intel is released, it would cause a worldwide mass suffering. We share the idea of open source, but value life and must make decisions-based decisions on outcomes and containability. So there's a lot of stuff shaking down here, and they just can't come out with it all, and they're arresting people in an orchestrated, militaristic type plan, right? So these are the best. These guys are the best at this. So let's trust the plan, as they're talking about there. And the last part is this Twitter down injection good Q. There's a lot of discussion about this on. I think I told you guys my two best sources is voat.co, going to the calm before the storm there. I was having hard trouble getting on it today. I'm hoping they're still up and running. But a lot of the stuff I got today was from reddit.com, but there's the best source got shut down, Calm Before the Storm. But the Great Awakening, subscribe to that, and subscribe to the Donald. You get tons of information there. What they're talking about this being is that now when they release like the 5.5 video, for instance, whether it's Hillary Clinton or the tarmac, we're not sure what it exactly is. A lot of these social media sites will just shut it down. So now we're thinking that there's some type of injection in here where they have some control over Twitter and these other social platforms so that they can't just shut things down so easily. That's some of the theories that are going along there. So we covered most of that. I'm going to stick into news now and then get into a Mark Taylor deal real quick. Here's this Facebook post I was talking about earlier. Sent a doctor on a hospital secret mission to ask hospitals. No, Facebook sent a doctor on a secret mission to ask hospitals to share patient data. So obviously that's completely against HIPAA rules. But Facebook doesn't care. It's basically the project that got canceled, right? That's going to just spy on everybody about everything forever, keep everything. We showed you the logs, and we talked about the Trump there. There's one other thing I think I didn't capture here that was kind of interesting. This is the Twitter down injection, good Q, right? And this was some of the discussion about that, and I just thought it was interesting. Somebody said asking what it is, and this basically said Q team, NSA hacked Twitter, Jack Dorsey, who knows how, why, or what the consequences, right? Easy to make it to suppress the 5.5 video. They are inoculating each platform one by one. Now that would be pretty awesome. So that's where I got that. Again, this is from the Great Awakening site of Reddit. So, and the Calm Before the Storm is the one that got shut down. So you have to go to the Great Awakening now, or to right here. If you go to the Reddits, the Donald. The Donald would be another one you could go to. I like to look at what's the top. Here's some great things. You can go to the top right here. That's the one I usually go to get information that happened real recently. Now, here's Trump declared sex trafficking and promotion of prostitution online a federal crime. Talked a little bit of that. This is a different article. This goes in more detail. I'll put that in the bottom too. Just great, awesome stuff going on and protecting these children. Here's another thing that was real interesting. If you look at a tweet here that was back, I think yesterday, Trump put this thing about Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming. Nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. And they mentioned that, see, the GKA is actually capitalized. Well, what this person's thinking is, if you go back and look at military codes, that's a discreditable incidents, civilian or military. So discreditable incidents, this could show us that Trump is telling Russia, Putin, that they know this is a false flag, but they're going to go test this military, take out some Syrian targets, etc., and not try to kill people, basically as part of this whole chess game. So now exactly what that is, I don't know, but that's another theory that's going around there. Here's this military code. You can look it up. I went and looked at this up here, and you can look at the actual GKA, right? GKA. And there it is. I should just do a church. Church is taking me so long. Here it is. GKA.
So just what they had put over there. So, again, test what's posted doesn't mean it's true. This looks like it's true because this is actually from the military separation codes, alphabetical. Okay. Now here's another thing from the Great Awakening. This basically talks about the Zuckerberg thing. I thought this was an interesting perspective. This is twofold. Trump signed a law to punish websites for sex trafficking. Zuckerberg stated he feels Facebook is responsible for the content on their website. Because he said this, that means Facebook can no longer claim it's a platform, but it's a publisher, as Ben Shapiro has tweeted. A platform isn't responsible for what is posted, but publishers are. The ideas on Facebook are now represented as the companies. They're essentially saying they support anything on their website. So every time someone is trafficked, Facebook is responsible. Every time a kid is bullied or suicide, Facebook is responsible. Hell, they're even responsible for Russian hackers. So this comes back to that new law they just put into place. So now Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, they're going to be held responsible. So as they start to shut down all libertarian voices, all conservative voices, well, they're going to be in trouble for a lot of other things as well. And there was a great discussion going on here, guys, but I've got too much material to go through and it'll be too long. It's very late here. Here's another interesting thing I saw was I think I got this from Vote, maybe. No, it's Reddit again. So here's a person who just had a pretty awesome tweet, I thought. It said, imagine if you were the president, you pick your successor, weaponize the FBA, the DOJ, the IRS against the opponent, you control 90% of the media, you have 2x budget, the ad budget, you collude with foreign powers, then lose to a reality TV star. Then accuse him of collusion. So it's kind of an interesting view there. Here's you probably saw that the white helmets and they actually created a movie. Most people think they created a movie so that if they got caught doing all this during the staged incidents, they'd have something to go back on to look at. So we not many people in the truther community believe these white helmets when they go in. And because they used the same girl in 3 different incidents, for instance, etc. This was a picture of some military actually protecting the border. I thought that was interesting. Last thing as far as news goes is this one right here. This talks about Alan Welcome 17, right? Plane 17. Seems to me that Alan Dershowitz, who showed up as number 17 on Epstein flight logs, might just be the key to expose everything about Epstein Island, Lolita Express, child trafficking, etc. He is now aboard. So I hope that's the case. Wouldn't that just be awesome to have somebody that is actually going to help take that massive fraud down? So, all right, the last thing we're going to get into is a Mark Taylor prophecy. This one was back way in 2011. So again, those of you who just wanted to get the news and the Q updates, kind of finish those up. So now I'm going to get into something where I kind of take the spiritual aspect of what I believe somebody who's probably a true prophet based on everything that's come true, named Mark Taylor, a former fireman, got terribly sick for almost 10 years. God used him in a mighty way, and now he's come back, and he's actually predicted Trump was going to be president way back in 2011. And it's amazing to just see some of his prophecies. About the same time he did this, he also wrote this thing about Commander-in-Chief, some specifics on this new president. And I thought this was a real interesting one to kind of get into today, and how it kind of aligns with some of what's going on in the real world and what Cueanon's talking about, right? So here we go. And I've been criticized quite heavily about reading too fast, especially when it says could be God's words, right, etc. I sometimes mispronounce or even say a different word. So I'm going to try to slow down because I was trying to get some of the excitement and the, rhythm of these because they're kind of awesome to me. But I'll be more careful. So here we go. The Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man, Donald Trump, for such a time as this. For his Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, and restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth, other than Israel. The dollar will be the strongest it has ever been in the history of the United States and will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. Wow, guys, that's pretty big things there, right? It's talking for number one that Trump's going to totally restore America, and secondly, a very big prediction on the dollar being the strongest it's ever been. And that's interesting. I'm hoping they go back to the gold standard, and that may be the reason why that happens. But right now, it obviously is not there. The dollar is still strong comparably. It's still the major currency. But obviously, this is a prediction of the future. So we'll see. That's another thing we can test with Mark Taylor. So here we go to this next part. I think this is just 4 paragraphs. Second paragraph. The Spirit of God says, the enemy will quake and shake and fear this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he is running for president. It will be like a shot heard across the world. The enemy will say, what shall we do now? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We have been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this? The Spirit says, ha! No one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. For I will use, I imagine when I copied this over at Lost, for I will use this man to reap. So here I go again. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for and plunder from the enemy what has stolen and return it sevenfold back to the United States. Now, is that exciting? I'm going to go back and read that properly now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for and plunder from the enemy what has stolen and return it sevenfold back to the United States. The enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by the Americans once again. For Israel will be protected by America once again. The Spirit says, yes, America once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. Now, this is amazing, guys, just to think about this, that the enemy is going to have to give us back sevenfold according to this. So this think all the money the Rothschilds have stolen from us, and all the gun running and the drug running, and that has been basically plundered, or all these economic and all these Paris Accords and all these, economic taxes where the enemy has basically stolen from us. It's basically saying it's going to be returned sevenfold back. Why? Because if you look at the other prophecies, he's going to use this as the army of God to go harvest the rest of the world. So he's going to bless us just like the D-Day where England, all these materials and weapons and spiritual blessings came to England for D-Day to happen. He's going to do the same thing to America to be the D-Day for the harvest. So that's a pretty cool prophecy. I'm going to read this last part that I messed up on. The Spirit says, yes, America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. 2 more paragraphs. The Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for this next president will be a man of his word. When he speaks, the world will listen and know that there is something greater in him than all others before him. This man's word is his bond, and the word, and America will know this, and the enemy will fear this, for this man will be fearless. The Spirit says, when the financial harvest begins, so shall it parallel in the spiritual for America. So here, this is so accurate when explaining Trump, in my opinion. It's like, wow, I was just amazed when I started studying this. So here's the last paragraph of this prophecy, which is Commander-in-Chief by Mark Taylor back in April of 2011. The Spirit of God says, in this next election, they will spend billions to keep the president in. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let them waste their money, for it comes from and is being used by evil forces at work. But they will not succeed, for this next election will be a clean sweep for the man I have chosen. Wow, just think about that. I was reading this before the election, right? And I was just amazed about they'd spent over almost $2 billion they were talking about
If you really counted out all aspects of this, 1.2 billion. But if you really looked at all aspects of it, like almost $2 billion. And what does it say? The Spirit of God says, in this next election, they will spend billions to keep this president in. Obviously, Hillary, third term. Obama really being still part of the puppet strings. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let them waste their money, for it comes from and it is being used by evil forces at work. But they will not succeed, for this next election will be a clean sweep for the man I have chosen. And I really believe once they look at all the election fraud and really figure that out, he will have won by a landslide. They will say things about this man, the enemy, but it will not affect him. And they shall say it rolls off him like the duck. For as the feathers of a duck protect it, so shall my feathers protect this next president. Man, if this is God talking, man, you do not want to be against Trump right now. And just think about that. Everybody, the Access Hollywood thing, you've got all these attacks from every angle, from Hollywood, from academia, from Silicon Valley, from leaders of the world, from $2 billion of spending, from the media that hates him, and it rolls off him like the duck. The feathers of God's protecting this man, obviously. Even mainstream news media will be captivated by this man and the abilities that I have gifted him with, and they will even begin to agree with him, says the Spirit of God. Whoa. When I first read this, I was going before the election. It was just crazy to me. And now it's even more amazing when I go back and reread it, because now it's after the election. And look at that. Spending billions, that happened, right? Everything rolling off him like a duck. It's like how this man was attacked, and to still win by a landslide, basically, compared to what was impossible to break through the blue wall. Just crazy stuff. Commander-in-Chief, that is, you can go see these, and basically you go to his website. I did this last time, SORDrescue.com, swordrescue.com with SORD, different spelling of sword, and you go to prophetic words. You got to go to that tab. You see the book you can buy, or you can just get all of these for free, right? So you'll see the one I just read you was Commander-in-Chief, one of the first ones, right? And so back in 2011, and you'll see that he's got a ton of others starting in 2015, and then 2016, 2017, and even 3 in 2018. So exciting times, guys. Sorry I didn't have much time to chat with you, but gosh, what a glorious time we live in. So let's shower him with prayers, though. Not only him, but the rest of the administration, our military that are at war right now with the deep state. This is a true silent war going on right now. This is the time for prayer warriors to come out. Let's get the prayer warriors to come out and support this president, support this administration, support the people he's bringing around him, and let's pray for the enemies to be plans to be confused and messed up, etc. Right? So God bless you guys. I'm going to close in a turbo prayer again. Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for my subscribers. How fun it is to be able to sit here and chat with them and share information with them. And Lord, what a blessing that is. What a blessing it is to just have a president who loves us and cares about us. Lord, and a God that loves and cares us about us, and that actually anoint and appoint this man for us. Lord, please just eliminate this deep state. Get the criminals out of our government in the United States and throughout the world. Get the criminals out of the churches. Get the criminals out of all areas, local, state governments. Get them out of the police force. Get them out of the academia. Get them out of Hollywood, Lord. Give us pure movies to go watch that are fun, that don't have to have all this political correctness and deep state narratives through them, Lord. We just pray for a healing of this country like you promised, Lord, in some of these prophecies. Lord, thank you for that. We thank you for the prophecies. We thank you for just healing this land. We pray for not only the United States, but the rest of the world, that patriots come together. This is not right versus left. No matter what your political view is, no matter what your color of skin is, or your orientation, or any beliefs you have, Lord, I just pray that we come together as patriots and we all work together against rooting out true criminality in our governments. We say things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. God bless you guys. Talk to you next time.